All right, everybody, welcome back to Behavior Shift. Today, we're laying down a foundation that's going to help you rethink how you approach your goals, not just what you set, but where you're setting them.
Yeah, so this is one of those episodes where you might want to hit pause, grab a notebook or your notes app on your phone or a kid's crayon in a cereal box. Doesn't matter. Just something to write with because it's going to be really good.
If I had a penny for every time I wrote my notes on random objects, I'd probably be wealthy, but that's besides the point. Anyways, today we are talking about the 6 main categories of goals and how understanding where your goals live can level up how effective and how fulfilling they are.
So let's just start. Let's break this down. So we've looked at a ton of research and talked to a ton of experts and read way too many books and even looked at different surveys and various other things. And what we found is that most goals fall into one of 6 categories or fall into 6 different categories. And these are ones that probably won't be that surprising to you, but here they are, right? Health and fitness is one category. Work and financial, that's another category. Learning and growth is a third category. Social and emotional well-being, fourth category. Family and community, fifth category. And last but not least, at least not in my mind, happiness and joy. That is the sixth kind of element of goals where they fall into a category.
Exactly. And if you're listening, what we're going to ask you to do is to take a second. Think about your current goals, or maybe ones that are floating around your head that you haven't solidified yet. Look at these categories and then think about where those goals, either the existing ones or the new ones, land in these categories. My guess is, as most people do, you've got a few in health and fitness and either work and financial. That's where most people fall.
All right, so we're going to give you a second. Think about those.
Write them down, pause the video.
Okay. So Ben, you talked about two of them, right? Health and fitness and work and financial. And those two tend to dominate the goal setting landscape. And to be fair, they're important, right? But here's the thing. They're not the whole picture. And life is multidimensional and your goals should be too.
Yeah, life's busy, it's multidimensional. So how do you figure out which category that you need to focus on to make your life fulfilling? What if you got goals in all 6? That's overwhelming. How do you figure out what you need to focus on?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And here's where we should get strategic, right? So one way of being able to not be overwhelmed by having, goals in every one of these categories and figuring out all of them is ask yourself this question. Which of these categories, if I focused on right now, would create the biggest positive shift in my life?
That question right there, that's the power move. You're not just setting goals, you're prioritizing those goals based on their impact on you. And that right there changes everything in how you approach and achieve them.
Yeah, and remember, your answer might change depending on where you are in life. So what feels urgent or really important right now may not be what felt urgent or important 6 months ago or 6 months from now, right? That's important to understand that these are constantly changing, which is why these 6 categories, you should be looking at them and figuring out what you need right now that will have the most impact. And no, that's normal. It's really normal to have these shift over time.
And I go so far as to say is not even might change, but most likely will change as you
Yes,
evolve,
they
right?
very good point, Ben. They will change, yes.
So what that means is if you're only setting goals in 1 or 2 categories, there's a good chance that you're missing out on some serious growth opportunities.
And one of the reasons of that is this concept that I love. It's called the carryover effect. And it's this idea that progress in one area often ripples out and creates progress in other areas, even if they're not directly related.
Exactly. So this is the magic part of this, right? I love the carryover effect too, because it can have an impact. You can have an impact on different parts of your life without even realizing it. So, for example, let's say you start journaling or you start practicing mindfulness. This is something in the social and emotional well-being category. It's not necessarily in the work category, right? But the fact that you're doing it can help you be better at work because you're helping yourself focus, you're regulating stress, and you're showing up stronger in how you approach life, which makes you better in your meetings and makes you more able to focus on your tasks at work, right? So, again, this is
Yeah.
social emotional well being. You're doing something specific to that, but because of the things that you're learning and evolving in that category, you're having a serious impact on this other category work.
Yeah, Ben, that's a great example, right? When we think about, one carryover, one focus goal in one area carries over in another. Another way you might want to think about this, you could make a goal to spend more quality time with your family, right? That builds kind of connections, emotional resilience, which can fuel everything from your fitness, right? I'm more likely to go out and exercise or feel good about exercising, be resilient, or creativity, or to better decision making. All of these can be impacted and have a carryover impact.
And we've made a similar analogy before, but it's like investing in one part of your life and getting dividends paid out somewhere else. So again,
Mm.
great analogy for how investing can relate to not just financial, but also investments in yourself, your behaviors, your actions, and the impact that it has on you.
All right, let's land this plane with some clear action. Here's what we want you to do. So, write down one goal in each of the six categories. Now, you don't have to do all of them or focus on them, but write down one goal in each of the six categories. Don't overthink it. Just do one. Now look at your list and ask, which of these goals that I've just written down, which one feels most urgent or which one feels most impactful right now? And then you can also ask yourself, are any of these categories that I'm looking at been ones that I have been ignoring? And could progress there create a carryover effect?
And don't think about being perfect in all areas, right? That's not the goal. It's about being conscious of how you're growing and where you might need a little attention or inattention across those categories.
Right, exactly. And so the more balanced your goal setting becomes, the more fulfilling and sustainable that you're going to be. So, this idea that you pick one of those that's going to be most impactful, but also look for that one maybe that you haven't been focusing in on, whether it's, social and well being, might be health and wellness. Whichever one that you're ignoring, maybe think about adding that to this. Only focus in on 2 or 3 of the goals eventually, because too many is gonna be overwhelming.
All right, so let's wrap this up with some takeaways. So we've got six goal categories. We've got a simple framework to look at those categories and a couple of solid reflection questions. Next time you're thinking about setting a goal, zoom out first and think about these ideas. Ask yourself what really matters right now and what you've been neglecting that you need to focus more energy on.
Yeah, because sometimes the biggest shift doesn't come from grinding harder at work, it comes from laughing more, connecting deeper, or learning something new.
Exactly. So we'll catch you next time on Behavior Shift. We hope this was helpful. And don't forget to give the happiness and joy category some love. That's one easy category to overlook and often the one that changes the game the most.